Hi everyone, thanks for joining us on this fireside chat. I'm Madeline Thomas, content lead here at WTIN. Joining me today is Davide Dragoni, product development manager of digital inks at JK Group. Today we will be discussing a number of issues based around sustainability in the digital textile printing space. We'll talk about the importance of key collaborations, changing market demands and overcoming industry challenges. And we'll also delve a little deeper into JK Group and discuss how it's aligning its product and its strategy to future-proof its business. So without further ado, I'll introduce Davide. Hi Davide, thank you for joining us today.
Hey Madeleine, nice to meet you and thank you for inviting me here.
No problem. So we'll start with the key issue at the moment then, sustainability. There's demand in the industry from brands, regulators, the consumers are wanting us to be more sustainable in manufacturing and in products. How is JK Group responding to this demand and how can the industry ensure a more sustainable digital textile printing industry?
Well, this question is really true. Sustainability is actually everywhere right now in every industry, and in textile is also very, very important at the moment, and is both for the perceiving of the consumer, the end user, and the brand. So in order to be competitive in this market, being sustainable for real is very, very important. This latest also period, the energetic crisis and the pandemic as well, I do think accelerated also the need to be more clear about our supply chain, the way we produce textile and things like that. As JK, we did choose long time ago to be in a sustainable path. First of all, we're doing inkjet, that by definition is related compared to other technology, for sure, with less impact, at least of waste and speed and way to market. Not only that, as far as chemical company, we need to oblige several regulations. Some are voluntary, some are mandatory. As JK, the major part of our portfolio is fully certified. First of all, as European manufacturing, there is the REACH regulation for the chemicals that is definitely mandatory, and we comply naturally about it. As far as the non-mandatory one, we choose to be compliant with two main organizations. First of all, through the EcoTest organization, we are now, since a year and a half ago, ZDSG Class 3, because the major part of our portfolio has the Eco Passport. Being Class 3 is very important because it's not only about the chemicals. We sustain a full audit by the EcoTest organization to have the Class 3 ZDSG certification that includes not only the chemical itself, but like you know very, very well, also all this social responsibility about the way we purchase, the way we manage our product, the way we produce our product. There are waste management in place, the way we treat our workers, the way safety is perceived into the company. Those are all things that counts when it comes to measure your sustainable approach to producing a chemical. And our customer, for them, is a real boost for their business, because being sustainable in a chain like this make them much easier to comply their own sustainability approach versus the brand and their customer. Consider that producing us chemicals, our customer are mainly all the printers that are producing, right? So in front of their customer, having a chemical that is certified, that is very, very helpful because it makes everything easier. So ZDSG is with the Eco Passport, is one organization we rely with, and the other one specific for the organic is the GOTS. In 2022, we obtained also the GOTS certification, meaning that we are qualified supplier for GOTS circuit.
Mm-hmm. Okay. And you mentioned, I guess, that sustainability is important in every industry at the moment, which, obviously I wholeheartedly agree with. But the whole of the supply chain in the textile and apparel industry it does get a bad rap when it comes to sustainability. But as you say, the whole of the supply chain is important. And how can brands choose the right partners to work with along that supply chain?
Again, for sure, the main properties there's nowadays in textile industry is about consistency and reliability. It's not that if you're not certified that you necessarily do something that is wrong. But if you are controlled and you control yourself and you're reliable and you're consistent, the whole chain is smoother. And nowadays, being smoother means less headaches during the whole supply chain and the whole processing process. Mm-hmm. In other words, reliability is the main things you want from a partner, from a supplier in this chain that goes from the chemicals to the final and the end product. Nowadays, don't forget, there is also a very new thing. It's not new, but it's more important than in the past. You have less room, you have less time in order to reply to your customer, in order to deliver your order. All the supply chain is getting shorter and shorter. In this scenario, being controlled and consistent and reliable is even more important because you have no time to fix things if everything is not in place.
Mm-hmm. And when it comes to partners, JK Group has its own. It has other players that it works with along the supply chain. How does being part of Dover and having these close relationships with other actors within the supply chain, such as MS for the digital printing machines, for example, enable JK Group to provide a better service to customers and to understand the supply chain and customers' needs better?
Being a part of a big group like Dover is definitely a big value for many reasons. We got the chance as a chemical company to write our own history since the beginning, but we have wider shoulders when it comes to partnership in every aspect. MS Printing Solution is definitely very important because give us the opportunity, is our main OEMs right now, and together going to the market together is a real boost because the customer will benefit about that. Is benefiting about the service, R&D and engineering is being much closer, give us the opportunity to deliver better performance in less time because we're part of the same group. I give you a couple of examples. About waveform and drop placement. When it comes to chemical and electronics, there are a lot of fine tunings that are not that easy to put together. And working close to MS gave us the opportunity to deliver better output thanks to the very close cooperation. And it's not finished here. We are recently cooperating with another company that is part of Dover, that is Mark and Image, big company out of France that is very active and is market leader in coding and marking. So it is not textile, but it's inkjet, right? And they're also part of Dover. Cooperating with them will give us also more opportunities to boost our services because I give you a couple of numbers. Yeah, like 3,000 employees, 28 or 30 places in the world with operation. So only for the logistic and delivery and service point of view, it's going to be a nice boost for our group.
Mm-hmm. Definitely. Okay.
In other words, being a part of the big group is a value because it completes you and gives you the opportunity to make things faster and better.
Mm-hmm. Okay, that's a good summation, I think. Thanks, Davide. If we move on, to talk about more market-related topics, if that's okay. JK Group has been in the industry for a long time now. Are you seeing, or have you noticed demand for inks change? For example, different demands in different regions or different application areas and market changes. Is sustainability or reshoring, for example, the reshoring trend, is that causing declines in certain areas, but increases in other areas like Europe, for example?
Yes, absolutely. The reshoring is something that we are living day by day. And again, we got lucky here because I think with all the economical crisis and the supply chain difficulties, both for price, delivery, and timing and transportation, plus together with the pandemic, made a big change in the way we consume also the textile products. For example, there was a big move from retail to online purchasing, and that's made a big change in the supply chain as well. Also personalization is something that is more and more present in our life. If with this scenario in place, being active in the digital printing is for sure a good place to be. And for this reason, because digital printing give the market the answer that is the time are answering, right? Are asking shorter delivery and more fast supply chain, less order, and more than everything, everything is less predictable. Being less predictable means that you gotta do things more close to the place the things are needed and faster. So having a reliable hardware and ink that give the customer the opportunity to do what you have to do more close to the end user, that's the key. And in this space, digital printing goes really at the spot. About the technology, for sure, there are a lot of change nowadays also in the way we see the processes. Everybody is looking to shorter the processes down compared to in the past. And every technology that help in making things faster and better is going to have success.
Mm-hmm. And I think what you mentioned there about that flexibility and being closer to the buyers or even the consumers is one of the reasons why digital textile printing bounced back so strongly after the COVID-19 pandemic, you know, compared to screen printing that really suffered. So yeah, that's important to note, I think. And what are the, you know, I just mentioned the pandemic there, what are the current challenges in the market and how can these be overcome, do you think?
The current challenge is to try to predict and to reply in the faster time that is possible. Also in a more sustainable way, because the demand is to be faster, the orders are smaller, and nobody knows if one thing is going to be reordered soon and when. So the key word on this time is uncertainty. And to reply to uncertainty, the only way is to be very, very flexible.
Okay. And do you mean flexible in terms of kind of the service you provide, or flexible in terms of what your products can do?
Both of those
Okay.
things, absolutely. There one thing related to the project itself. So for sure, maybe some technology is more close to these needs because it works better. For example, we see a lot of demand right now of digital pigment printing. That was something that wasn't like that in the past. Consider that digital printing in pigment in textile is the last technology that is not being digitalized yet. And because pigment is much easier to realize in terms of process, much shorter with less energy demand, is going to become very actual for the time being. On the other side, also give the opportunity to work closer to the customer, because you don't have to be in a textile district with all the water treatment and everything. You can print whatever you want, like dye sublimation is. So this flexibility of the process will make a success for this technology.
That's an important point that you made there about pigments, and we'll go back to that shortly. I just want to quiz your brain on something that we're getting a lot of questions about here at WTIN. So we mentioned the pandemic. In response to other challenges that may or may not be a result of the pandemic, you know, long lead times, supply chain issues and cost increases, the energy crisis, etc. Are print service providers sourcing ink more locally to mitigate against these problems, or are they changing their buying habits in other ways, have you noticed?
Yes, absolutely. This is a leitmotif in the last couple of years, and the recent energetic crisis, that's also on top of that. When it comes to the recent supply chain issues, the only reply is get shorter supply chain, closer, and in order to reply faster when you get your order, because the last thing you want to have an order that is maybe shorter than in the past and do not have the necessary material, right? So yes, we are definitely assisting to a reshoring and nearshoring kind of aspect, both for chemicals, for raw material in general, and also for final product. Absolutely true.
Okay, and going back to the pigment issue then, you know, we see, as you've mentioned, pigment has been growing at incredible rates. Have you also seen this, have you noticed this growth, and in kind of what areas, and what applications? And one of the reasons that pigment hasn't grown as much as some may have thought, is because it's so expensive when compared to, say, reactive ink, and other ink types. Is the sustainability impact now outweighing product cost increases, do you think?
Nowadays, this consideration you're saying is definitely more actual. I'm telling you why. It is true that if you look at the price per kilo of a pigment ink and the amount you use to obtain a given shade, a given color, is higher than, for example, reactive, if you compare chemical with chemical. But when it comes to the whole process, especially nowadays, with the energetic cost that went to the roof, I think the comparison is much, much closer. I honestly do think that it's not about cost, the comparison. Is pretty much more about the output itself, because it is true that the pigment costs a little more, but with what you're saying with the process, you definitely go closer or even less. The thing is, pigment technology nowadays, it's okay for a decent part of textile, but it's still young to go in part of textile where, you know, vibrancy and feeling are way more important. So it's not all about cost, it's also about output. And from that point of view, I do think that is our job to do the best as we can to do the output that is much nicer than the past, but it also will be about brands, designer, and at the end of the day, consumer, that in somehow, I would not say that's going to change their feelings and their attitude, but for sure, if they want, they could adapt to a more sustainable way to print that maybe is not exactly the same that what we're used to. In other words, some kind of vibrancy and then feeling that you obtain with reactive dyes on certain fabric, I honestly don't think could be matched ever with pigment printing. Remember that pigment printing is the oldest way to print we know, and this is the most diffuse one, but not in every part of the textile. Mm-hmm. So this change versus sustainable way will pass through some technical challenge, some more, let's say, design challenger, and also some choices. And I do believe these kind of things, like always, are brand driven. So, you know, the big player here, they can make a big role in this conversion.
Yeah. And the quality of pigments has increased, you know, it's improved dramatically, hasn't it, over the last few years? There's been a lot of R&D go into that. Mm-hmm.
Absolutely right. This is one of our main focus with others naturally, but we do see the trend, we do see the needs, and we do see the challenge that the pigment is having in order to match other technology, but also we see the big pros that comes with this kind of technology. Imagine to be able to print pretty much everywhere without infrastructure or almost without it. Same thing you do with our sublimation.
Yeah.
you can do the pigment. So the cost of investment is much lower. There is no water, and so it's so easy that we'll be successful. Again, maybe it's going to be successful more in some segment first, and then the other will follow. For example, I do see a lot of needs in home textile, in men's shirts, women fashion, little less. It's going to take a little bit more time for the output point of view, but it's not much, not that easy to match. But also in that field, if the consumer will change their perception and they will be bet on sustainability, and brand will follow, it could be done there too.
Yeah. And what regions are you seeing pigment being more popular in? Is it in Europe or Asia?
I do see more space in places like Europe or the States, or generally in Western countries, because consumers are more there. So if you want to be close to delivering less time, I do see more chances there to, the print, web to print is a much bigger thing here than in Asia, for example. So pigment makes sense if you are close to your customer. You need to deliver personalization, fast and readable.
Okay, thanks for that, Davide. You mentioned briefly dye sublimation, and I know that's always been a really important area for JK Group. How do you see your, I guess, dye sublimation offering expanding in the future, and to what extent are pigment inks eroding the market share of dye sublimation inks and reactive inks, I guess, as well?
More than erosion in any kind, when it comes to the comparison with dye sublimation, I don't think pigment is going to erode anything, because all the pros that come with the pigment printing at the end of the day are there also with dye sublimation. Dye sublimation was the first technology that is being digitalized heavily, almost completely, right? When it comes to other, there is still a lot of analog out there, reactive, disperse, and pigments, more than everything. Dye sublimation, because dye sublimation was born with sportswear, and there is no market more local than sportswear, right? More related to events. So this is the flexibility is already in the DNA of the dye sublimation, and is already so much easy that I don't think pigment would erode any kind of things there. When it comes to reactive, things are little differences. I do not believe in systematic erosion and big time erosion, no. But I see more a complementarity about the two things, related to what they have to do, where, and what they have to print. So it's going to be a nicer mix, a better offer to the customer and the end user with a more sustainable technology. Erosion, I don't know, maybe something for sure, something, some people change from one to another, but on the big numbers, more than erosion, I see complementarity.
Okay, that's a positive way of looking at it. And I guess, looking at the future, what is JK Group planning in terms of future development, and what do you see as the future of the digital textile printing industry? How do you see it evolving, and how will JK Group align itself in this evolution?
Well, the evolution, generally speaking, is going to be more and more and more digital. Every study, every segment consideration is saying like that, for all the reasons we already just talked about it. As far as JK, we do have many projects going on, for sure. One of the biggest is related to pigment printing. We just talked about it. We are very focused to expand our portfolio in pigment with a much better offer by next year, by the ITMA, and maintaining the top level of every aspect, our actual portfolio, and improving our actual portfolio with dye sublimation and reactive and disperse is also focused, because believe me, in chemistry, in chemicals, maintenance is something that you do day by day, because providing always a better ink is always a challenge, even if the technology is well known. So increasing speed, increasing color, increasing, improving fastness. These are all things that we are continuously doing, even if the technology are well known from us. We do also carry few projects for direct printing, not necessarily pigment, with end user, industrial end user or OEM. And so our plate is pretty full for the next 3 years, for sure.
Okay, that sounds exciting, and I look forward to seeing you at ITMA next year. So I think that's all we've got time for, I'm afraid. Thank you for listening, everyone. I will now hand over to my colleague, Lucy Mulcahy, who will moderate the Q&A session with Davide, and who will hopefully answer all of your questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Madeleine. Talk soon.